Welcome to Fairy Tales English Journey. Today we will explore a very old story from ancient Greece. It is the tale of Oedipus Rex. This is a story about destiny and the choices we make. Have you ever wondered if our future is already written in the stars? Let us find out together. Long ago, in the grand city of Thebes, lived King Laius and Queen Jocasta. They were happy rulers, but they had no children. One day, they finally welcomed a baby boy. They named him Oedipus. The kingdom rejoiced at his birth. Everyone thought the royal family would live happily forever. But the king and queen wanted to know the future of their son. They sent a messenger to a wise oracle. The oracle lived in a sacred temple and could see what was to come. The parents waited with great hope. They wanted to hear wonderful news about their little boy. The messenger returned with a very sad and frightening prophecy. The oracle said the boy would grow up to defeat his father. Then he would take the throne and rule beside his mother. This terrible news broke the hearts of the king and queen. They were terrified of this dark fate. King Laius made a very difficult choice to protect his kingdom. He gave the baby to a trusted servant. He told the servant to take the baby far away into the mountains. The king hoped the child would grow up far from Thebes. He wanted to stop the prophecy from happening. The servant carried the baby deep into the wild mountains. But the servant had a kind heart and could not leave the baby alone. He met another shepherd from a different kingdom called Corinth. The servant gave the baby to this shepherd. He asked him to give the child a good home. The shepherd took the baby across the mountains to Corinth. The king and queen of Corinth had no children of their own. They were overjoyed to see the beautiful baby boy. They adopted Oedipus and raised him as their very own prince. They gave him all the love in the world. Oedipus grew into a strong and very smart young man. He believed the king and queen of Corinth were his real parents. He loved them dearly and wanted to make them proud. His life was full of joy and peace. He had no idea about the secret of his true birth. One day, during a grand feast, a visitor said something strange. The visitor told Oedipus that he was not the true son of the king. This comment deeply troubled the young prince. He asked his parents about it, but they told him to ignore the foolish words. Still, he felt unsure. Oedipus decided he needed to find the truth for himself. He traveled to the same wise oracle to ask about his family. The oracle did not answer his question directly. Instead, the oracle repeated the old, terrible prophecy. The oracle told him he would defeat his father and rule beside his mother. Oedipus was horrified by these words from the wise oracle. He loved his parents in Corinth very much. He could never do such terrible things to them. To protect them, he decided he must never go back home. He chose to walk away from Corinth and find a new path entirely. He believed he was running away from his dark destiny, but he did not know he was actually walking right toward it. Oedipus traveled alone on the dusty roads. He felt sad to leave his home, but he knew he had to keep his family safe. He walked for many days. One afternoon, Oedipus reached a place where three roads met. The path was very narrow and covered in stones. Suddenly, a royal chariot came rushing down the road. An older man was riding inside the chariot. The guards shouted at Oedipus to move out of the way immediately. Oedipus was a proud prince and refused to be pushed aside. The older man grew very angry and ordered his guards to force Oedipus away. A fierce argument started on the narrow road. Oedipus fought bravely to defend himself. He defeated the guards and the older man in the chariot. The older man was actually King Laius of Thebes. He was the true father of Oedipus. Neither of them knew the truth about the other. The first part of the prophecy had just come true. Oedipus continued on his journey without knowing what he had truly done on that dusty road. Oedipus soon arrived near the great city of Thebes. He noticed that the people were very frightened and sad. The city was being guarded by a magical and dangerous creature. This creature was called the Sphinx. The Sphinx had the face of a woman and the body of a giant lion. The Sphinx sat on a high rock outside the city gates. She would not let anyone enter or leave the city. She asked a difficult riddle to every traveler who passed by. If they could not answer the riddle, they were chased away. The city of Thebes was trapped and hungry. The people of Thebes had just lost their king on the road. Now they were trapped by the Sphinx. They were desperate for a hero to save them. They promised that anyone who solved the riddle would become their new king. They also promised he would marry the queen named Jocasta. Oedipus was a brave and very clever young man. He walked right up to the high rock where the Sphinx sat. He looked at the frightening creature without any fear. The Sphinx smiled and prepared to ask her famous riddle. She thought this young man would fail just like all the others. The Sphinx asked her riddle in a loud and booming voice. What walks on 4 legs in the morning, 2 legs at noon, and 3 legs in the evening? Oedipus thought carefully about the strange question. He knew the answer was not an animal. He realized the riddle was about human life. Oedipus answered with great confidence. The answer is a human being. As a baby, a human crawls on 4 legs in the morning of life. As an adult, a human walks on 2 legs at noon. As an older person, a human uses a walking stick, which is the 3rd leg. The Sphinx was shocked that someone had finally solved her riddle. She let out a loud cry and flew away from the city forever. The people of Thebes cheered for their brave new hero. They opened the gates and welcomed Oedipus inside. The city was finally free from the terrible monster. The citizens of Thebes kept their grand promise to the hero. They made Oedipus the new king of their beautiful city. He also married the lovely Queen Jocasta. Oedipus felt very proud and happy. He thought he had completely escaped his terrible fate. He ruled the city with wisdom and kindness. For many years, King Oedipus and Queen Jocasta ruled in peace. The kingdom of Thebes grew rich and very strong. The people loved their smart and brave king. Oedipus believed his life was perfect. He never thought about the old prophecy from the oracle. He felt safe in his new home. But one day, a dark shadow fell over the grand city. The crops in the fields stopped growing. The rivers dried up and the animals became very sick. The people of Thebes were suffering once again. They came to King Oedipus for help. They begged him to save their beautiful city. Oedipus promised his people he would find a way to help. He sent a messenger to the wise oracle to ask for advice. The messenger returned with a very clear message. The oracle said the city was suffering because the person who defeated the old king was living in Thebes. The oracle said the city would only heal when this person was found. The guilty person had to be sent away from the kingdom. Oedipus agreed to this plan immediately. He announced to the whole city that he would find the guilty man. He promised to banish him from Thebes forever. Oedipus began his search for the truth with great determination. He called for a blind prophet named Tiresias to help him. Tiresias was very wise and knew many hidden secrets. But when Tiresias arrived, he looked very sad. He refused to tell the king what he knew about the old king. Oedipus grew angry and demanded the truth from the blind prophet. Finally, Tiresias spoke the heavy words. He told Oedipus that the king himself was the man they were looking for. Oedipus was shocked and very furious. He thought Tiresias was telling a lie to take away his royal crown. Queen Jocasta tried to calm her angry husband. She told him not to listen to the blind prophet. She shared the story of her first husband, King Laius. She said King Laius was defeated by a stranger where 3 roads met. She wanted to prove that prophets were often very wrong. But her words had the opposite effect on King Oedipus. He remembered the older man he had fought on his journey. He remembered the place where the 3 roads met. A cold feeling of fear started to grow in his heart. He began to wonder if he was the guilty man. Oedipus needed more answers to calm his worried mind. A messenger arrived from the city of Corinth with sad news. The king of Corinth had passed away from old age. The messenger wanted Oedipus to return and rule Corinth. Oedipus felt sad but also relieved that he had not harmed him. Oedipus told the messenger he still feared the second part of the prophecy. He feared he would rule beside his mother. The messenger smiled and told Oedipus not to worry. The messenger revealed that the king and queen of Corinth were not his true parents. He said Oedipus was adopted. The messenger explained that he was the shepherd who brought the baby to Corinth. He said another servant from Thebes gave him the baby in the wild mountains. Queen Jocasta heard this story and her face turned pale. She suddenly realized the terrible truth. She begged Oedipus to stop asking questions. But Oedipus was a man who always searched for the truth. He refused to stop until he knew everything about his past. He ordered his guards to find the old servant who gave away the baby. The old servant was brought to the grand palace. He looked very scared and tired. The king asked the old servant to tell the whole story. The servant looked at the queen and then at the king. With a trembling voice, he confessed the hidden secret. He said the baby belonged to King Laius and Queen Jocasta. He said he could not leave the baby alone. The heavy truth finally crashed down upon King Oedipus. He was the baby sent away to the wild mountains. He was the stranger who defeated King Laius on the dusty road. He was the man who married Queen Jocasta. The terrible prophecy had come true despite all his efforts to escape. Queen Jocasta was filled with a deep and heavy sorrow. She could not bear the weight of the terrible truth. She ran into the palace and locked the heavy doors. She wept for the choices she and King Laius had made long ago. She wept for her son and her city. Oedipus realized that every step he took to avoid his fate only brought him closer to it. He felt a deep darkness in his heart. He knew he could no longer be the King of Thebes. He had promised to banish the guilty man, and he had to keep his word. Oedipus chose to leave the beautiful city of Thebes forever. He gave up his royal crown and his grand palace. He put on the simple clothes of a poor traveler. He decided to wander the world to learn more about wisdom and humility. The people of Thebes watched him leave silently. The story of Oedipus teaches us a very powerful lesson. It shows us that we cannot always control everything in our lives. Sometimes the harder we run away from our problems, the faster we run into them. It is a story about facing the truth no matter how difficult it is. The ancient Greeks believed very strongly in the power of fate. They thought the gods had a plan for every single person. In this story, the prophecy was like a map already drawn. King Laius tried to change the map by sending his baby away, but his actions only started the journey. Oedipus also tried to change the map by running away from Corinth. He thought his choices would lead him to safety, but his choices led him straight to Thebes. This shows that our actions have consequences we cannot always see. Every choice we make creates a ripple in the great river. Another important lesson is about the danger of too much pride. Oedipus was very proud of his clever mind. He solved the riddle of the Sphinx when no one else could. He thought he was smart enough to outsmart his own destiny, but his pride made him blind to the truth. When the blind prophet Tiresias told him the truth, Oedipus was too proud to listen. He thought he knew better than the wise prophet. If he had listened with a humble heart, things might have been different. True wisdom comes from knowing that we do not know everything in the world. Even though the story is very sad, Oedipus shows great courage at the end. When he finally learns the terrible truth, he does not run away again. He accepts his responsibility for his actions. He keeps his promise to banish the guilty man, even though it means he must leave home. This kind of honesty is what makes Oedipus a true hero. A hero is not just someone who fights monsters like the Sphinx. A true hero is someone who faces their own mistakes with a brave heart. Oedipus lost his grand kingdom, but he gained a very deep and true wisdom. The story of Oedipus has been told for thousands of years. It reminds us to be humble and to seek the truth carefully. It tells us to respect the mysteries of life that we cannot understand. We must learn to accept the things we cannot change and do our very best. When you face difficult times in your own life, remember Oedipus. Do not try to run away from your problems. Face them with courage and a clear mind. Ask for help when you need it and listen to wise advice. Every challenge is a chance to learn and grow much stronger. Thank you for joining us on Fairy Tales English Journey. We hope you enjoyed learning English with this classic ancient story. The tale of Oedipus Rex is a wonderful way to practice new words and ideas. Please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more amazing stories and lessons. We love sharing these magical journeys with all of you. Remember to practice your English every single day. Reading and listening to classic tales will help you speak with great confidence. Share this story with your friends and family. We will see you next time for another wonderful learning adventure.